Hey guys, what's up? I'm back with more of the bread and butter of this channel over the past year or so. It is F1 2021 League Racing gameplay, and we are in the USA at Circuit of the Americas this week. And you have not seen any league gameplay over the past couple weeks, and the reasoning behind that is because it's been a rough couple weeks for me in the league world. We had a race at Silverstone, which was okay. I think I started P8, finished P10. Wasn't the best racing by me, so I didn't really feel the need to share that with you, respectfully. Saw that guy crash out, tough for him. But the beautiful thing is that it didn't impact my qualifying at all, so that was kind of nice. Just one extra guy that I don't have to pass on the track, so that's pretty good. We also had a race at Singapore, which went absolutely terribly for me. It was a wet race, and the guy in front of me desynced right before the lobby started, so I ran right into the back of this guy and destroyed my front wing, had to pit, came back out, destroyed my front wing again, unrelated. I just kind of spun, just did a slow spin in the rain. And it's a real shame. I practiced for Singapore quite a bit, and I was feeling pretty good on it. It was just kind of unfortunate. And I still managed P11 in that race just from other people crashing out. So that was, could have been worse, I guess, but wasn't really something that I felt like people would want to see, frankly. So you don't see it. You didn't get to see it. So let me put up my first lap there in qualifying. It was a 1:33.6, which is not great. And that kind of segues nicely into the situation here. I just did not have a lot of pace. Just didn't have pace. I felt it while I was practicing this week. I was especially weak on the S's, I felt like, at COTA. And it wasn't shaping up. Although this might have been a nice lap, except I invalidated it right there. Just a little uncomfortable in a weird position. So we end up with the 1:33.6. I just wanted to show you this because I thought it was kind of cool how the light's streaming through and goes around the crew member and stuff. I just thought that was pretty cool, so that's why you're seeing this view. But we end up with a 1:33.6, which is good enough for P10. We only had 14 guys on the grid in this race. I think I maybe could have gotten Guitar Hero if I had, finished that second lap nicely. I guess it was my third lap, but you get my drift. So we're starting P10 on the grid. I am on the softs, and I got a decent start, I would say. Nothing crazy, but I was a little too conservative maybe right here going into the first turn. I just really didn't want to ruin the race in the first corner. But the downside is I ended up behind Juzzy, which plays into the race later, okay? So you see us going through the S's. I could have taken them with more speed, but I'm just really trying to be careful and try to stay behind these guys and not do anything stupid. Maybe take advantage of being in DRS range when I can, or maybe using some of my battery and overtaking them if possible. But I am firmly in P10 here, but I'm almost a full second ahead of Chris KYU right behind me, and within close range of Juzzy and Guitar Hero in front of me here. So I feel like I'm in a decent position if I can just find a time to get past these guys. The downside, though, as I previously mentioned, is I didn't have a lot of pace. You see me almost have a look at going inside, but figured that was just not the smart play at that point, so I didn't do it. And I'm just sort of trying to manage this and be smart, really. But as I was talking about in qualifying, I just didn't have a lot of pace here, and I know that. I'm well aware of that. So I'm just trying to count on my consistency to save me here, which is something that I do quite a bit. I have to rely on my consistency instead of pace quite a bit. There are certain tracks and certain races that I've really just felt dialed in and felt like I'm really able to put the rubber to the road and really put nice times up. But COTA is not one of those tracks, and this race was not one of those races. And I don't know what just happened behind me, but it looked like Chris KYU and Whizbang maybe had a little tangle. You see Chris KYU tumble. He was right behind me, and he's now, I think, P13 or P14 maybe, depending on what happened with him there. But I'm still just trying to stay behind these guys and be smart. I will point out to you that Ghost is behind me on the mediums. And Ghost is a really fast racer. So he started P14, I believe. He Crashed out in qualifying, did not set a lap time, which is atypical for him. He usually sets a really fast lap time, and you would expect him to be starting top 5 usually in most races. So this was somewhat atypical, but he's behind me going medium to soft, and in my experience, the softs seemed a lot faster on this track. I just did not feel as comfortable or as fast with the mediums, which is ironic. I think I ended up setting my fastest lap of the race on a medium. Not that it was a very fast lap, but had a little look at Guitar Hero there. I couldn't get it done. I'm behind these guys, and this is nothing against either Juzzy or Guitar Hero. They certainly have pace ability, but they were tangling throughout these first couple laps, and I just could not get past them. I mean, it was impossible for me to get past these guys because they were slowing each other down, battling for the spot, and as an extension, I'm slowed down right behind them too. And it just felt like I couldn't get a good exit out of any turns that would enable me to overtake both of them or even one of them, because the guy in front of me is going to have DRS. I've got DRS since I'm staying within close range, but you see that Ghost has gained a lot of time on me, and he's on the slower tires. And he's a faster driver than I am, but he's on the slower tires. So it would be nice to think that I could gain it or keep at least a little bit of room to him behind me, and hopefully be able to stay in front of him. But I wasn't confident that was going to happen. And if he passes me on the mediums when I'm in the softs, once we switch, there's no way at all that I'm going to be able to catch him. So I really needed to try to stay in front of him here. So you see my first DRS opportunity here. Juzzy didn't get a great exit. Guitar Hero didn't get a great exit either. But Guitar Hero's got the DRS, as do I. You see me gaining a little bit of time on Guitar Hero, using the battery a little bit, I think. I'm colorblind. It looks green. Now it's orange, I think. I just couldn't. Maybe I would have tried to go down the inside if Juzzy hadn't been there too, but I just couldn't get it done. So I'm just really being held up by these guys at this point, and it's unfortunate, but it's just the way it is. So the wheels are already turning in my mind at this point in the race. I know that I'm going to be faster on the softs. So what I had hoped to do was run longer on the softs, maybe an overcut type strategy if I can. But I'm just not seeing how that's going to be a possibility. I had to start on the softs. I would have rather started on the mediums, but it wasn't an option because I qualified P10 on the softs, which is the worst thing that I possibly could have done in this race, I think. And, even if I was P9, maybe I would have been able to have a little better start or better positioning, but I was on the bad side of the grid. It just wasn't going to work out. So you see me there, go to my MFD and tell them that I'm coming in this lap. I just figured I've got to try to undercut these guys. There is no way that I'm going to get past them if I don't undercut them. So this is going to have to be my main hope. And I know I can do, 9 or 10 laps on the mediums. I can certainly do it. I've done it here before. I think I've probably done 12 laps on the mediums in a 25% race. So I know I can do it. And I know I can do it and still keep a gap. I can't remember if this was 2 seasons ago. I actually uploaded a race from here where I ended up doing something like 12 laps on the mediums, and I stayed out in front of the guy behind me. I think the gap started at like 9 seconds. He cut it down to like 1 second over a couple laps, but I managed to stay in front of him, and I almost touched Juzzy there. Ended up losing a little bit of time, but that's okay. I'm about to go into the pits here, so it kind of doesn't matter to me if I'm able to get a jump on them at the DRS opportunity. So I'm okay with easing back a little bit, and I'm just sort of internally hoping that none of these guys around me pit at the same time as me. So Juzzy and Guitar Hero do not pit. Ghost does not pit. And I'm into the pits on lap 4/5. So you see me come out, 2.6 seconds stop. You see me come out in clean air. I'm behind Kenny Hitman Hart. I'm in front of Chris KYU and Whizbang. Fast forward to lap 7. You see me get the undercut successfully on Guitar Hero. Fast forward to the next lap. You see me get the undercut successfully on Juzzy. So Juzzy and Guitar Hero both have penalties here. I'm like 6.5, 7 seconds in front of them. And I use my battery pretty heavily on the 2 laps post-pitting just to really try to maximize that undercut feel. And I think it clearly worked out pretty well. The benefit, I had a bunch of laps in the free air on the mediums, and the mediums are slower, but I had a bunch of laps where there was nobody around me, and I just know that Juzzy and Guitar Hero continued to battle, except for when one of them had pitted. So it was important to me to get that clean air, not be in traffic, and I think it really paid off here, and I think it was really the right decision. You see here, I was hoping, so Ghost comes out behind me. He's on the softs now. It was nicely done that I came out ahead of him. I think he was also slowed down by Juzzy and Guitar Hero. But I was hoping to keep him behind me for longer than I did, and I was unable to do it. He passed me within half a lap, and I knew he was going to be fast on the softs, but he was even faster than I thought. I'm on old mediums. He's on softs. I didn't even fight that. I just let him go. My hope here was to stay within DRS range of him, and it's very quickly apparent that I'm not going to be able to do it. He's now almost at a second gap in front of me. Yep, there's a second, and I was done. I was cooked. Because I really thought that I could potentially catch Kenny Hitman Hart if I played my cards right around Ghost and I could get pulled along a little bit. But ultimately, it was not in the cards. I could not stay within a second of him to get the DRS opportunity. So you see here, fast forward to lap 11, Jerdy gets a little DNF action. I've spun there myself. Sorry, Jerdy. Tough to see it. You hate to see it. Fast forward to the last lap of the race. I am now 11 seconds behind Ghost. I am a little over 2 seconds in front of Guitar Hero and Moose, both of whom have 3-second penalties. I think Juzzy ended up in P11 behind Moose. I wanted to show you this last lap just because this is kind of what I was afraid of, where at the end of the race I'm going to nail the S's right there. Look at that. This ended up being my fastest lap of the race. So I wanted to show you what I consider to be my only real good lap of the race, honestly. It's kind of a shame that I really managed to dial it in on the last lap. And listen, by no means was this a fast lap, I wouldn't say. I think it was like a 136, low 136er. And the fast lap of the race was in the, 34s maybe. I mean, this is not competitive for fastest lap of the race, but for me it was the fastest lap that I ran, and I felt like I dialed the S's in, did okay in the third sector, I seem to remember. So it was nice to finally get a good lap on the road, especially when Guitar Hero had sort of closed that gap to me a little bit. If you remember, at one point he was 7 seconds behind, but he had closed it down a little bit, which is, again, what I was worried about. I think he had a little bit cleaner air, less traffic to race with, and so he's faster than I am generally, and I think he managed to make up some of the gap. And also I just didn't have a lot of race pace. As I mentioned before, I just did not have a lot of race pace today, and it's unfortunate, and I think I could have done better if I did have some race pace. I think Kenny was reachable if I had the race pace, but I didn't, and I really had to rely on that strategy call, that undercut. And I ended up on tires I didn't like, but I think it was the right call given how much time I was wasting behind those guys. So P8, we're happy with it. We'll be back. We got 2 more races this season. We're going on a little break, but I plan to have some 100% races in the off season. So look out for more.